Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books, and I've been covering Disney very closely these last several months. The ratings for The Mandalorian Season 3 are absolutely terrible. They are off by about 40%. That is not good. They do not need the ratings to be off by 40%. They need them to maintain the interest at the very least of where they were at with The Mandalorian Season 2. Let's get into this first article from Cosmic Book News. Mandalorian Nielsen ratings drop big, nearly 40%. Mando and Baby Yoda are not off to a good start with Season 3. The Mandalorian Nielsen ratings have seen a big drop of nearly 40% from the Season 2 finale to the Season 3 premiere. In December 2020, the week when Season 2 finale of The Mandalorian was released, December 14th through 20th, the show secured the top spot on the Nielsen Ratings weekly US streaming chart with 1.34 billion minutes viewed. That was good, which marked the first time a non-Netflix show took the top spot. And that is a big accomplishment, especially given that Netflix is the biggest and best distributed streaming service, so they've got more distribution than Disney has, no matter what brand Disney makes a show based on. It's a different story for the start of The Mandalorian Season 3, as the first episode that debuted on March 1st during the week of February 27th to March 5th, The Mandalorian only had 823 million minutes viewed, which is a drop of 38.5% in minutes viewed. Worth a mention is that the ratings aren't just for one single episode and take into account all the available episodes viewed. So back at the Season 2 finale in December 2020, more people must have been watching additional episodes compared to the start of Season 3. So there's a lot of interest people are losing in the series. Because when you have all that back catalog, of course, we binge watch the things that we're interested in when something new is coming out, just to get caught up and enjoy it again and then see where they take the story. However, the Season 2 numbers saw The Mandalorian average around 1 billion minutes viewed per week, with the Season 2 premiere having 1.032 billion minutes viewed, so we see there's some kind of a decline by at least 20%. Are The Mandalorian ratings cause for concern? There will be a cause for concern if the minutes viewed don't increase or even go on to further decrease for The Mandalorian Season 3 in subsequent weeks. Watch out for next week's Nielsen ratings numbers for more. I'll keep an eye on it and we'll probably do a video based on it, which is something suggested by various insiders and scoopers who've basically said the ratings are a total disaster. Samba TV actually reports The Mandalorian Season 3 premiere was watched by more households than the Season 2 finale, 1.6 million to 1.1 million. So again, we have to see what the Nielsen ratings report in the coming weeks actually says, but so far, the Season 3 Nielsen numbers are off compared to Season 2. It has been over 2 years since The Mandalorian Season 2 aired, and fans have been put off by the terrible Book of Boba Fett. Obi-Wan was at best mediocre, and people tuned out Andor even though it was a pretty decent show. So obviously fatigue is setting in for Star Wars shows that are just not well done. The Mandalorian Season 3 premiere episode also happens to be the lowest rated show on Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb. And that can't be helping. Disney CEO Bob Iger said he's taking a careful look at Star Wars, so there's obviously something wrong at Star Wars. He said the same thing about Marvel. And with Marvel, he's of course gone out and said, well, I don't think we could do sequels of all of our really popular characters, because after Ant-Man and Wasp Quantumania, after Black Panther Wakanda Forever, which barely was a sequel, it wasn't even a sequel of the Black Panther character, just the world that he lived in. Didn't even make sense as a character sequel. They don't know what they're doing at Marvel. They don't know what they're doing at Disney. Iger has also supposedly told the Lucasfilm people, no Indiana Jones TV series, no Willow, just absolutely focus on Star Wars. And supposedly he has said Kathleen Kennedy needs a new Star Wars film in movie theaters by December 2025 or she's fired. We'll see what happens with that. She is supposed to be fired after Indiana Jones 5 comes out. We'll have to see. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Do you think The Mandalorian is going to see a Season 4? Are these ratings accurate? Are people really passionate about the series maybe and we're just missing it? It doesn't seem like it. It seems like they kind of blew it. Here's another interesting story coming from Seeking Alpha, Apple buying Disney. It is interesting to talk about because it does look like it's more and more likely something like that would happen. I don't think Bob Iger really wants to hand Disney over to anyone else. I think he wants his Disney that he thinks he has now made and he owns to be sold and passed off, and no one else could be another CEO of Disney after the great and talented and really horrendous Bob Iger. Apple buying Disney? Needham, the analyst, says they're worth a lot more together. Walt Disney Company is in a state of transition during its 100th year as chief executive Bob Iger looks to cut costs, figure out the direction for the company's streaming and digital businesses, and reportedly is considering the possibility of selling off properties such as Hulu and ESPN. I'm going to predict they are going to sell Hulu. They are not going to sell ESPN, and we will get into why. But could anything be more transitional than Disney being acquired by Apple, one of the few companies with the financial reserves to buy the legendary entertainment giant? Such a tie-up would create a juggernaut in technology, entertainment, and content unlike anything ever seen before. And on several levels, it makes a lot of sense, according to Needham analyst Laura Martin. In a research report, Martin said that with Apple having 1.25 billion unique consumers using its products and services, and the 570 million consumers that Disney reaches every year, the companies are worth more together than separately. And that is a good premise. It's something I covered in a video in the past. Apple has a huge distribution channel that is proprietary. People that have Apple phones, yes, you can get on Apple's platform, but Apple having direct access to those people's credit cards and the ability to put things on their screens the way they want to promote and put things on their screens, that can't be replaced by anyone else until someone else comes up with a device that replaces the iPhone. It could happen someday, but in the meantime, they have distribution like no one else has. Martin said that Apple and Disney are complementary due to each company having particular strengths that could become stronger together. For Apple, that would be how it distributes content to its customers, as witnessed not only by its 1.25 billion unique and wealthy users, but the 2 billion iPhones and iPads that those customers own. Meanwhile, Martin said that what Disney does best is create well-known content franchises, which it's currently still destroying, that it is able to distribute on digital screens globally, as well as in the physical world. Other factors that Martin said are positive for Apple and Disney, and which would strengthen the company should they tie up, are that both companies are marketing juggernauts. They have rabid fan bases of customers, though a lot of customers, of course, are getting really fatigued with Disney and their terrible treatment of the franchises, and they're able to charge premium prices for their offerings, and are two of the biggest and most widely recognized and popular brands around the world. By market capitalization, meaning if you added up the value of all the stock together, Apple, with a valuation of $2.6 trillion, is in a league that includes Microsoft, and really no one else is even close. Disney has a market cap at about $178 billion, and on a premium that would be included when Apple would make an offer, say, to purchase the company, and they think that Disney stockholders would get at least $200 billion for the company. Even at that price, Martin said the move would make sense for Apple, as it would place itself in a content and technology position that could be unassailable. Quote, defensively, content beats technology as a multi-decade moat, adding that the bundling of Disney's products with those of Apple would make Apple shareholders happy by potentially giving a 25% boost to Apple's market value. So she's saying she thinks it could add as much as $5, $6, or even $700 billion in value to Apple stock to acquire Disney for $200 billion, which is a $500 billion upside. That would be a lot. Do I think that people would feel that way? Not necessarily. Disney is not the kind of business that Apple is, and their free cash flow hasn't been so good in the last few years. They definitely haven't mastered their streaming service. They may get better numbers on their streaming service. They probably will over the next year and 2 years. Apple is incredibly profitable, and they've also never purchased and integrated anything near the size of Disney. And they've really not gone in that direction, even though they could have bought many companies because of the value of their stock, the cash they have, their ability to borrow. If they wanted to buy companies like Disney, they could have already bought them. Now, the reason why Disney would sell Hulu before they would sell ESPN is because Hulu is really not a successful business for Disney anyway. The value of Hulu is something like $18 billion. Universal, owned by Comcast, owns a third of Hulu. Universal could make a deal for, say, $18 billion, $20 billion, get the 2/3 that it doesn't own of Hulu, and then use that as their streaming platform, because they don't really have a big successful streaming platform of their own. Disney could absolutely use the cash, and they're going to have to probably sell something at the rate that they are going. They would not sell ESPN because ESPN is what still drives their cable business for all their other cable channels, which represents a really substantial amount of revenue for them. There would be a risk, an incredibly high risk, that Disney would lose pricing power at a time that they can't afford to, meaning the amount of money that they're allowed to charge for their non-ESPN channels when they're selling them to cable services. They really rely on being able to offer a package and saying, hey, you ain't going to get ESPN if you don't overpay us for the Disney Channel and FX and all the other channels they own and control. They really need that, and they'd be playing with fire. It would be incredibly tricky to sell ESPN and then still maintain the revenue they need to maintain on the rest of their cable channels. It could collapse the company. So they will not risk that. But getting rid of Hulu, since they don't know what they're doing with Hulu anyway, and that was something that they wanted to control because they didn't have Disney Plus at the time when they overpaid for Fox, getting them that extra ownership of Hulu. They don't need Hulu anymore. We'll have to see what happens, and we'll probably find out in the coming months. In the meantime, Bob Iger is starting to figure out what his strategy is going to be. He's got an upcoming shareholder meeting. He is going to have to discuss ESPN and the future of Hulu. These are really big, serious things, as well as fend off questions about the franchises, such as Star Wars and Marvel, firing Ike Perlmutter, Victoria Alonso. We'll have to see how her lawsuit goes. She's supposedly negotiating with Disney for a settlement after being fired and thrown out of the company. But let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Did you think that Mandalorian Season 3 was going to be as big as Season 2? Did you think it was going to start to decline the way it's been declining? Let me know what you think. Also, let me know what you think is going to happen with Apple buying Disney. Do you think there's a chance that Apple might still buy Disney? Do you see the logic in Apple doing it? Or do you think Apple would look at this and be like, you know what? $200 billion is still a lot of money. Why should they take the risk of buying the company and trying to integrate it into their culture? If I'm Apple, I'm looking at it and saying, yeah, you know what? I don't think so. They certainly don't need it. They're doing fine without it. And do you also think, like I do, Iger will probably want to sell the 2/3 of Hulu that Disney has to Universal, because Universal obviously will want it, and Disney's got to get cash from someplace. Definitely let me know what you think. Always love your comments. Always appreciate your comments. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.